Hello again and welcome back to the 2 Turnout HO switching layout. I was going to start the video with my usual there's not a lot to report, but I was considering that I haven't got a lot of physical progress to show you, but that doesn't mean that there hasn't been progress. What does that mean? I'll try and explain. So while I haven't got a great deal to show you in the way of building progress, if you like, scenic work and so on the layout, there's a reason for that, and there's two things that I've been focusing on. One is the operations, so can I make a 2 turnout layout enjoyable to operate and give me some sort of long-lasting satisfaction as far as a hobby goes? I think I've answered that one, and it does feel like a yes, and I'll explain a little bit more about what I've come up with. It's not unique, but it works for me. And the other one is scenically. I kind of want to think a little bit more before I just start. What is it? What's the look I want to achieve? What's the vision, if you like, in my mind's eye that I want to try and picture here? And I was a bit unsure about some of the balances and so on. And I think, again, I thought it through a little bit and started to kind of rough some stuff out. You can see there's some cardboard boxes and things on here sort of standing in. And again, I think I've got a good idea of some of the things I want to do or how I want to approach it as well. So I'll talk about both of those things, then the operations and then the approach to scenics. From a scenic point of view, I mentioned in one of the last videos that I was sort of taking inspiration, and this is all Google Earth based because I'm across the other side of the Atlantic from the place I'm trying to sort of model. I'd taken some images that I'd used when I built the Greenville layout, which were based around the sort of industrial park in Mansfield, Massachusetts. But looking again, actually, I still want to go for that kind of industrial layout. I certainly don't want to go for inner city. So as much as I love the stuff that Landsmindheim and others are doing, that's not really the kind of vibe I'm going for. It's not the kind of area that I'm looking at. But when I was looking around on Google Earth, what I found was that there were some areas on the outskirts of big cities or on small towns where you'd have little industrial areas with those kind of pike stuff style warehouses and factories and industries and so on, but they weren't on that same sort of scale, so they're not massive tall warehouses and so on as well. So that's made me think a little bit about the scale of things and bringing that down a little bit. And there are a couple of buildings in particular that I'm not looking to copy a prototype, but I'm hopefully going to give me some inspiration for some buildings I want to try and have a go at, try and make. And I'll show you a couple of those and overlay some photographs and so on as well, so you can see what I'm thinking of aiming for really. So to start with, as a reminder, or for those of you who've not been before, this layout, as the name suggests, is very simple. It only has 2 turnouts, but I have a sort of fiddle or staging area based on this shelf here, and trains arrive sort of on stage, if you like, around a curve which takes them to here. Sorry, I'll follow that round. And just here they've got a turnout just there, and then there's another one just there as well. I'll show you that in a bit more detail. And then basically the rest of that is a switching lead that heads down there. So if we start at this end of the shelf, and I've touched a little bit on some of this in the operations, but where we have this curve coming on, the idea is, as I say, this is kind of edge of town, that at the back here we've got a fairly large building or complex with an area where the hoppers will actually sort of start to disappear into just there. I am looking at a couple of buildings to inspire me for this, and there's one in particular which was at Sebring in Florida, I think, which I've just seen some glimpses of on Google Earth. So that's the kind of thing I'm looking at for that. At the front here, we've got an open team track or unloading area. And I did think about putting a chain link fence here to sort of make this a closed off compound, but things were starting to look a bit cluttered. So I really want to keep things as open and spacious looking as possible. So if we just move around a little bit to this area, this I think is going to be a separate building, a separate industry altogether. And at the moment that's a pike stuff building that I've kind of reused. And actually I'll probably recolour it, but I think it'll be something that'll probably stay there unless I come up with something different. So next to that, over here, and I'm still working out the proportions a little bit, I'll bring up the picture on the screen of a building again at Sebring that I was looking at, but I'm thinking this is a non-rail served building, and it's really just the side of the building. So the wall will be quite low, probably lower than that, with a bit of a slope going off. And then just here, if I can do something with the ground levels, that'd be nice as well. But at the end of the building I was looking at on the prototype, there's some truck loading. So again, I'm not copying it slavishly, but it's kind of inspired by, but that's the kind of thing I'm thinking there as well. And then if we move across this little road, which isn't going to be a fancy grade crossing or anything, I think it'll be pretty low maintenance. But over in this corner, there's a couple of things I'm trying to resolve really. So the building at the back, again, I'll put some pictures up, but I was looking at a building which I think was actually in Monmouth, Illinois. I took some snapshots from Google Street View, just of the kind of elements I wanted to capture. So again, I'm looking at an industry with a little bit of the things you might expect to see outside the building there. So I did notice on one of those pictures they'd got a little lunch or smoking zone with some picnic tables, and there was a fenced off area with something like some AC kit or something. So that kind of stuff is what I'm looking at there. And the height of the building I think will probably be where those card panels are at the moment, not the box that's at the back. I want to also disguise the sort of end of the layout there, and I was going to do a big concrete flyover, but I just didn't feel like it was the right place for that. So I think just a building, and this building is a very scaled down version of something I'm really keen to try and include somewhere on the layout, and that's kind of where it's sitting at the moment, but that's subject to change. I'll put some pictures up. This was a building that I spotted on the outskirts of Indianapolis on Google Street View, and just fascinated me with the shape and the textures and the colours and so on. I thought that may be a really good little scratch building project. So at the moment, that's the plan for that. These panels, by the way, are 3D prints that I've knocked up in Tinkercad and printed off on my 3D printer, and those are basically going to make up that building at the back. I'll stick all those onto a hard core. So when it comes to operation, I've kept it really simple, and I'm using dice to roll on a random sort of generation chart to give me the switch job. So first of all, I've just temporarily put these coloured markers on the layout to show me where the spots are. Obviously they'll be removed once it's kind of all scenically developed. And then on this table I roll 2 dice, which will give me an indication of what I need to deliver. So in this case I rolled a 6 and a 2, and that's telling me that I need to deliver a car to the yellow spot. And on the second table, another dice roll tells me on this occasion it's a tank car. Now all of this is going to be tweaked and as I go along, and hopefully perfect it a little bit. So it can generate anything up to 3 cars, which provides a little bit more of a switching puzzle, if you like. In this case, it's just the 1 car, so it's a real gentle 20-minute operating session at most, running at slow speeds and so on. So let's just run that train.